I'm just gonna kind of slowly get started. So hi, I'm Cal. I work for Bywater Solutions on the Aspen Discovery team, and thank you for joining us for another Aspen Academy. This one is all on the ways that Aspen introduces additional content to our users through recommendations and ratings and reviews. So I'm going to start off. I put the agenda, I'll just post it again in the chat, but I'm going to be going a little bit out of order. I'm going to start first with the free stuff because everyone loves free stuff. So we're going to go through all the free ways that Aspen makes recommendations. And then towards the end, we'll look at some of the options that you have if you do subscribe or pay any of the platforms for like third-party enrichment. So that's Syndetics and Novelist content. We'll talk about that in a little bit. If you do have any questions, feel free to throw them in chat. We got Bill and Morgan here on the Aspen team that can answer some of your questions as well. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Just a reminder, again, on this page I threw in the chat, after today, the recording will be available here for you. And this also lays out any of the permissions that you need to administer any of this. So if I show you something today that you don't have access to, check in on your permissions and just make sure that you have the right things to be able to see what I'm showing you. There's also, if you want to dive deeper into any of these topics, just more curated pages on our Help Center to get you to all that information. So let's start off with that free content. So regardless if you subscribe to Syndetics, Novelist, Content Cafe, these are going to be things that are just built into Aspen. So we're going to start with some of that. Right off the bat, when your users go place a hold. So very common interaction with a library catalog is coming in and as a user, coming in and placing a hold. So one way in which Aspen has some built-in recommendations, and you've probably seen this, maybe placing holds yourself, is when you do a search and you place a hold, you will get, so I'm just going to pick a title, place a hold, submit my request, and right there from this modal, I'm going to get 3 like recommendations just based off the title that I placed a hold on. I find this really nice as a library user myself because if I'm maybe a little bit frustrated by the long wait time on an item, or if I was really just itching to get something today, I really like that I can see similar titles right from this holds screen. So that's just like built in by default. We'll talk about what Aspen is doing and how it's making these recommendations as well as I show you where this kind of pops up in a few different places. So that is always available when you're placing holds right there from the screen. Now, if I go into my account right now, so I'm logged in just as like a regular patron. If I was to go into my account and I'm just browsing through my checked out titles and my titles on hold, this is another area where you're going to see those built-in recommendations. Within the checked out titles, as I go through my different, maybe my e-content checkouts or my physical checkouts, every item is going to have this "you might also like" button. So very similar to what we just saw on that hold screen, users are going to get 3 like recommendations based off of that title. Now here's where we get into what and how is Aspen making these recommendations. This is probably the most common question I get during user experience trainings. Staff are very, very curious on like what Aspen is doing behind the scenes. So this is not using Novelist. It is not using Syndetics. It's not using Content Cafe. It is a built-in algorithm in Aspen. So the actual algorithm, I will translate it to you in more human words because the algorithm is a little bit complicated in the code. But what it essentially is looking at is some main data points. I'm going to read them off because I do not have them memorized. But subject, topic, awards, author, era, genre, geographic information, MPAA ratings, and accelerated reader. And they're weighted in that order that I read it off. And this is, of course, on our Help Center if you want to dive into that algorithm. But it's very interesting. So it's basically what it's doing is it's looking across all of your MARC records and it's comparing that data to make like matches. So a lot of times you might see similar like the audience range. So it's showing you like another juvenile title when you're looking at a juvenile title. Or maybe you notice it's showing other titles by that author or even other titles in that series. This is also it's specific to your server and your content. So it's not like it's pulling from a generic pool of these recommendations. It is using your data. If you are in a consortium, another common kind of question I get about this, is it only my library system or is it like only my branch? No. So it is anything that that user has access to with their library card. So if your library subscribes to Hoopla or different e-content than maybe another library in the system, it could be making those recommendations based off of really anything that they can place a hold on within the catalog. So that's just like an important kind of thing to note there. The other thing is this is based off of grouped work. So when you click on any of these titles, it's going to show you any of those available formats. So it's not always necessarily like in the same format. It could be like the cloud library title, the Libby title, the book. So it's based off of like the grouped work ID. And as you click through all of these, they're going to have obviously different ones depending on what the content is. Another place that we're going to see these is in our holds. So if I navigate over to titles on hold, I have some pending holds here. So you're also going to see this represented in the while you wait button. The additional kind of smart thing I think that Aspen does here is that it also includes availability into this. So what I mean by this is if I click on this and I get my 3 recommendations, and this is a test site, so we don't have a ton of things on here. But if I'm clicking into here and I'm getting my 3 like recommendations, one of the formats within the grouped work should be available. So the idea here is remember when the women at some of your libraries had 1,000 people waiting and I go place a hold and I'm 1,001 as a patron and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like it's a rainy weekend. Like I was so looking forward to checking something out from the library and I have to be the 1,001 person on this list, right? So with these, what we also want to do is make sure that we're going to give them something that they can get today or very fast. We don't want to show them other super popular bestsellers that they're going to have to be number 400 on the list or something like that and frustrate them. So we don't want to like tease them with things that aren't available. So one of these in the grouped work, whether it's like the e-content format, whether I can drive to the library and take it off the shelf today, it's going to be available for me. I really like this too, like collection management standpoint, because it might be showing things that maybe were popular a couple years ago, or things that maybe aren't moving on your shelves as much, and it's starting to generate interest in maybe some of those titles. So I think that's like a really nice built-in feature with this. And you can just kind of see as you're clicking through them, they're going to be just some different recommendations per that title. Another place where these same types of buttons manifest is within the reading history. So if we go into your reading history, hopefully this is turned on. Okay, yeah. So if you do have reading history enabled, or if your patrons do have reading history enabled, they will also see these You Might Also Like buttons within their reading history. If you are like me, and I'm so guilty of this, so you go through a certain subject or you go through a certain topic or author or series to the point where you're like, if I read another Emily Henry book at this point, like I'm going to lose my mind. But maybe in like another year, 6 months, something like that, you want to come back to that topic or come back to that author. I love this because this will preserve those recommendations. So if you have your reading history turned on, you're not going to lose out on those. So you can always come back in here. You can always take a look at those recommendations that Reader's Advisory right within the reading history. So it's all the same kind of algorithm that right now that we're looking at. One last place where we will see this is if you're just actually like clicked within a record. So if I were to go to Dogman and I was kind of scrolling through the record here, this more like this is based off of that same type of algorithm that you just saw in our checked out titles, our titles on hold when we place a hold. So again, this is not paid enrichment. It is built into Aspen. So you will see this when you're clicked within the record. You'll see these recommendations. So same kind of thing. You're just, instead of 3, you're getting more. I forget if it's a dozen or 15. I didn't count before this session, but you're just getting more titles. And these are things that are, somewhere available in your catalog that users can click on. They can place the holds. They can get more information if they want. All right. Let's see. While we're talking about the free stuff, I also just wanted to point out as well, there is Goodreads available. So if you scroll down, it gets turned on in here. Reviews from Goodreads. That is also another sort of like built-in ratings, reviews, recommendations. Again, it's free. It's something you can turn on any of your servers. And it's more of that like peer-to-peer recommendations. If you are a user that loves Goodreads, if you click on write a review, it will open up Goodreads. You can leave a review from there. If you're, signed in on your home device, it will just pop up your Goodreads account and you can go ahead and, contribute a review or just kind of look through the different reviews that people have left. So that's also just like another free thing that you can enable. Another type of recommendation system that's built right within Aspen. And maybe you've used this and maybe you've started to, leave reviews for certain things or you have patrons that love this. But you'll see these stars throughout the catalog. How this works is, let's say, just going to do a search, just do a blank search. Let's say you have those users that love to leave reviews. They love to give their opinions and they come into the catalog and they start going through here and leaving, oops, we're not ready for that yet, leaving some star ratings. So I just give some Dracula, give some reviews here. Sorry, this modal's gonna keep popping up until I'm ready to talk about that. All right, so I'm getting to 5 things. Once your users start to leave 5's the magic number here, 5 recommendations or ratings, I guess, with these stars, then Aspen will start to generate recommendations based off of those star ratings. Now, those stars are weighted. So what you're doing is, or what Aspen is doing, is it's assigning weight to those stars that you just gave. So again, this is on the Help Center, but I can just like, it gives you, if you rated an item 3, 4, and 5, that's when it starts generating recommendations. So if you give a title a 5, then it's going to give you 3 titles that are like that one. So that's how it works. If you give an item a 3, then it's only going to give 1 title that you like based on that one. And what it's going to do is the initial, so once you do at least 5, the initial recommendations is typically between like 10 and 15 titles that it will start to recommend. Okay, so where did my recommendations go? So if now a user was to go back into their account, so I'm going to go back to like where you're taken when you sign in that account summary. This recommended for you was not here a few minutes ago. What it says before users leave any star ratings is something like, we don't have enough information to give you recommendations yet. Like, go ahead and leave some ratings in the catalog. So once users start to do that, then Aspen is going to start to generate those recommendations based off of the star ratings that I left. So this was, one of the authors that I rated 4 or 5 to. You're seeing a lot of classics because a lot of the classics were the ones that I rated. As I continue to keep adding additional recommendation or additional reviews with those star ratings, Then Aspen's going to keep learning my interest with this, and it's going to keep generating recommendations. A very common question we get is this pulling from your reading history? Is it pulling from your checkout history? No, it is specifically tied right to those star ratings. So if you give, 3, 4, and 5, that's how it's generating those recommendations. These recommendations can be managed over here in the side. You can also see this more as an entire list if you click into recommended for you. And magic. Okay. So if you do see a title that you don't want to be recommended, you can say don't recommend again, and Aspen will not recommend that title to you. You can also see a log of anything that you've rated. So if you change your mind, if it was just, a quick finger or something like that, you can come in and you can switch that out. You can also clear out these recommendations sorry, I keep saying recommendations, these ratings at any time. And then it will also log any of those titles that you've marked not interested in. There's one additional place that we have in Aspen set up to show you your recommendations based off of these star ratings. If I were to go back to my browse categories, we saw, or you see at the beginning, these browse categories set up by our staff members. So some staff have created these browse categories and anybody can see them. They can see them if they're not logged in, if they're logged in. But then Aspen has 3 additional browse categories that only display based on logged in user behavior. So right now, this user is logged in, and now I'm seeing this recommended for you browse category. So we did not see that at the beginning, and it wasn't there until I actually started to leave those star ratings. This is just the same titles that we saw right within the account in that kind of scroll bar. It's just another place that this will appear within Aspen. And again, as my interests change and I keep coming into the catalog and engaging with the catalog and leaving additional star ratings, then these will just continue to update and continue to grow. All right. One other place that maybe we don't always think about with, well, actually, let me show you one more thing. There was a pop-up when I was leaving those star ratings. So I just want to touch on Aspen's built-in review system. I will say we don't have a ton of libraries using this. I think especially in today's climate, maybe there's some hesitation with kind of that much engagement of our patrons within the catalog, but it is available if it is something you want to explore. So I would like to just talk about it, touch on it, just to show you during this session. So let me just find one that I have not rated, and I'm going to leave a star rating again. Now, what this is, so Aspen has ratings that you can enable, or you can also enable reviews. So if you have star ratings on, you don't need to have this component. So this is an additional component that you can add on top of those star ratings. If you have this turned on, these reviews, then when someone leaves the star rating, this box will pop up. This will allow users to actually have a free text box in which they can leave a review. So wonderful, loved the characters, something like that. When they submit their review, and now if I were to click into this grouped work, scroll to the bottom, there will be a new tab that is generated called Borrow Reviews. So it won't be there until someone submits at least, one review on that record. But everyone that's navigating the catalog would be able to see this. So it's showing my first name, my last initial, the date that I left the review, and then also my free text box. Now, because I'm logged in and I left this review, I'm able to delete this. Also, your full admin at the library, it's permission-based, but your staff would also be able to delete this. Common questions we get with this. As you saw, it was published automatically or immediately. There is no type of review queue or anything like that. I'm not going to spend too much time on this today, but it extensive information on the Help Center about this, but we do have some barriers in place that you can enable if you are using the review system. One being a very extensive bad words list that we have loaded within your settings. If you search your admin settings for bad words, you can click on that and you can see that, but I will not be pulling that up live right now today. But what that will do, there's kind of two options with that. The first one is sort of just like built in. It will leave asterisks if somebody leaves a word that shows up on that bad word list. The second sort of like more restrictive option that you have is if a review contains a word that is on that bad words list, it just won't post at all. So you do have some barriers in place if you'd like to use that. We do preload you with sort of like an internet's best practices from some sort of like chat type. I'm not sure where it was generated from, but we do load you with some default words, but you do have access to curate it and decide what is a bad word. But that's typically how you manage any of that type of concern or content. So now let's look at maybe just maybe something that maybe we don't always think about as built-in recommendations, but I think of it like this. So let's look at the Explore More box. I'm going to take you over to the Mary Mac library, which is a member of Gmail, because I think I saw Sarah. So hey, Sarah. And I want to show you something with the Explore More box. So I'm just going to do a search for craft. And let's just kind of scroll down our screen a bit and take a look at the Explore More box. So the Explore More box, if it will appear on a search, it's always going to be under the second result. The idea here being, let's say I searched for craft. I'm going to kind of just like start scrolling. No, that's not what I was looking for. That's not what I was looking for. Oh my gosh, there's a tween scene related craft program coming up. Oh my gosh, they have Creative Bug. I know Creative Bug. I can get craft videos on there. Oh my gosh, there's a whole list that they've put together related to crafts. There's even 61 events related to crafts coming up. So what Explore More does is it looks across all of your other integrations that you've set up. So this library has an events integration. We have events integrations with LibCal, Library Market. What else? I know we have 4 now.
Communico,
Communico and
Alphabet.
Thanks, Sarah. I think that's what you all are using. Yes, so we have 4 now. So if you subscribe to any of those vendors, not only will it pull in your events, and again, I'm not going to go too deep into this today, but you'll get a whole events search. But also recommendation-wise, if users are already searching for this content within the library catalog, so I'm already a patron interested in craft books or craft videos or something like that, then Aspen is going to index or read through all of your events, and it's going to try to recommend like events to those users that are already searching for those things. So I just think from like a marketing and outreach standpoint, that's really, really nice way to generate those recommendations. So these are the events, and this is the events integration. This here, where it says Creative Bug, this is something in Aspen called web resources. So the library has added their web resources or resources that they subscribe to, trusted websites, and things like that. And what Aspen is doing is it's using the words that have been put in to this web resource. So probably has craft right here, and it's indexing those words. And so when somebody searches for craft, then this Creative Bug resource is coming up. So for all of those different databases that you subscribe to, like a test database, if I were to search SAT, then Aspen will show that test database, if it's described here. So just another really powerful way that it's just automatically sort of generating recommendations based off content that you subscribe to. The other one here is lists. So list is a great way to get people engaged with other areas of your collections. So they have a crafting craze list. So if I click on this, it's going to take me into that list. And then the patron could come in and they could place holds on all of these items. They could go crafting crazy and engage with all of these other titles that they didn't even know that your library had, maybe. So lists are a really powerful way to promote additional titles in your collections. Other things that can show up here, EBSCO host databases, Summon databases. They have some web pages related to crafts. History and archives could show up here. Genealogy, if you're using that module. So lots of different ways that Aspen is taking all of the content that you've added into this on the server or added into these integrations, and it's making recommendations right through here. Just some common questions about Explore More. There's no specific settings within Aspen where admin are saying show lists and explore more or put events and explore more. A lot of this is just automatically generated for you. So you can kind of just like sit back and just let the algorithm work. What you can customize within Explore More are these images that you see here. Those are going to be in your theme settings. So if you wanted to like upload a little customized like list icon or update what this web page icon looks like, you are able to customize like that look and feel. But pretty much once these integrations are connected, Explore More is just going to start working its magic with those recommendations. So very, very cool. Look out for that on your searches when you scroll down. And it's a great way to kind of engage users, meet them where they are. They're already searching for these topics. All right, let's keep going. Let's look at some paid enrichment now. So I like to use R.H. Johnson Library because they have both Novelist and Syndetics. So in one tab, I can show you all the goodness that is available. So let's just do a search. And I'm going to click into the Seven Husbands here. Just kind of wanted to show you what these enrichments look like once they're set up. We do have information on the Help Center for what we need for these different enrichments. Novelist, a little bit, and Content Cafe, a little bit more straightforward, I would say, like client key, client secret, plugging that information in. With these integrations, it's almost instant that it starts working. So it's very easy to test and make sure that you have the right credentials because it's pretty fast. Syndetics, I think sometimes there's maybe a little bit more that you have to maybe authenticate on that end of things, but it's still relatively easy. It's just plugging in, like for Unbound, like plugging in your like Unbound number, making sure you have specific things marked that you want to pull into that integration. We're happy, of course, to help you with any of those, but we do have detailed instructions on what you need from those providers. Within the admin settings, we'll look at admin settings in a little bit, but it's really easy to just navigate to those settings and to see what is needed as well. But let's take a look at this when it's actually set up. So the first one to look at is Syndetics Unbound. There is some customization that you can do within outside of Aspen within that portal, the Syndetics like admin side, where you can say like which specific things that you want set up. So like I want summary, I want reviews, things like that. But when it comes into Aspen, it's going to be just within this like kind of block, this Syndetics Unbound block. And then within that block, it's split up. So you'll be able to see whichever integrations you've kind of enabled on that admin side. So different, you might also like, so they have a very similar type of you might also like. They also have similar authors, and it could be like reviews, library lists. There's AR and Lexile information available, tags. So really nice, just a ton of different content that you can pull in here. There's also Novelist. So this one that they have set up is we call it Novelist all-in-one. There are two different Novelist options that you have within Aspen. This is the all-in-one option, and I'll show you the other one in a second. But this is Novelist all-in-one. It has a very similar look to what we just saw with Syndetics. Similar titles, If you click on these, it'll take you out into the library catalog to discover those other like titles. We're going to see things like similar authors. They have, genres, all kinds of things. More reviews. Hey, they even have Goodreads, like Aspen does. So that's just another kind of layout that we've brought in sort of recently that's available to your users. Another thing while we're here is Novelist Enrichment appears in a couple other places. So let me just quickly do, I'm just going to click on the author hyperlink. And when I do that within Aspen, regardless if you have Novelist or not, but when you click on the author hyperlink, it's going to pull in author search. So it automatically switched me over to a quoted author search. Actually, this one, let me do another author search because this one didn't bring up what I would expect. Hold on. Okay, let's just do Jane Austen. Okay, perfect. All right. So two things here I wanted to show you. So I clicked on a quoted author search, or I clicked on the hyperlink. It automatically changed me into a quoted author search. If you subscribe to Novelist, you will see this automatic pop-up over here on the side that says similar authors. When you hover over it, it shows you in the little black pop-up here that it's coming from Novelist. If I hover over any of these authors, it tells you why Novelist is suggesting that author. So I can go down the line here and say, like, why are you recommending Barbara? And you can read why it is. You can also click on any of these authors and it will do an author search for that author. So that is with the Novelist enrichment. That is not on by default within Aspen. The other thing I wanted to show you, which is a free or like not a paid enrichment, is this Wikipedia blurb here. So when you click on the hyperlinks of your author and it switches you into this author search, you will see a little blurb at the top of the catalog. Now, Jane Austen is probably the longest one I've seen when I've come across in testing. I would say the majority are a couple of sentences or maybe like one paragraph. But she's been around the block for a while. She's got a lot of bio there. But sometimes you'll see a picture, sometimes you won't. It just kind of depends on maybe how popular the author is or, what's available for that author. But again, it's just like another little kind of engagement, enrichment area that's just, it's free. It's right within Aspen. If you click on some of these hyperlinks here too, it will take you out into a search. So it's sort of kind of like directing you into other areas of the catalog as well. And I said I would show you the other Novelist look. So let's just pop over to the catalog. I already had it pulled up, but I'm just within the Where the Crawdads Sing record. And if I start to scroll down, there's similar titles from Novelist. So this is the classic view. So with the key that you're setting up within Aspen, it's the same type of account that I just showed you on the other catalog. It's just once you get into the Aspen settings, you're able to decide which layout configuration you want. So this is the other option. What this does is it breaks up Novelist into 3 chunks. So similar titles, similar authors, and similar series. And you can enable which of those you want. You can enable all of those. You can enable like 1 or 2. You can configure that how you'd like. How this one works is if you own one of the titles underneath the similar titles from Novelist, there will be a cover here. So Aspen is actually going through your collections and making sure that you own these. So this library owns all of these. So if I click on one of these, it should take me out to that record. Sometimes you might come across one that doesn't have a cover in this integration, or this area here is grayed out. It's not hyperlinked. That just lets me know that that library doesn't have that title. So Novelist is recommending it, but the library doesn't have it in its collection. So just kind of keep that in mind if you have this one set up. There's also the similar authors from Novelist. And if you click on any of these, it's going to take you into an author's, or it's going to take you into a search for this author. So it just took me into the author search. Okay, so let's take a look now on the back end and kind of explore like where these settings are. So I'm just going to go back to our test site. I'll sign out. I'm actually going to go off screen for a second so that I can put in my ridiculously long password. But we love security. So we're gonna put this in. Okay. All right. Magic. Okay, cool. Now I'm signed in as an admin, so I'm gonna go into the back end of our settings in Aspen administration and take a look at where we can start enabling some of this if we're ready to do so. For the paid enrichments, you should be able to search. So like Novelist, start searching Novelist. If you click into here, you'll see where you need to add your credentials. Same thing, you should be able to search like Syndetics settings, if you have Content Cafe. All of this is in the third-party enrichment section. Oops. So you'll see kind of all of those different things that you can plug in or you can integrate. So we're seeing the like Syndetics, Novelist, and also the Content Cafe. So if you're wondering, hey, do we even have these things turned on? You could check there first to see about your credentials. Once you have your credentials in there, then what you want to do is you want to make sure that you've enabled those enrichments within that grouped work display. So those settings are going to be in grouped work display. So I'm going to click into here and I'm going to find my settings. So some of you might have multiple of these. Some of you might just have one, just kind of depends on your configuration, how many branches you have, how customized maybe some of this is. But I'm just going to click into my set of settings. And if we scroll down towards the bottom of these settings, basically like the bottom half, you're going to start to find the catalog enrichment section. Some of this is, or most of this is a lot of times on by default. So usually we have things like show syndicated reviews, show Goodreads. We prefer Syndetics or Content Cafe descriptions, usually because if you're paying for that enrichment, we want to give preference to it. Showing similar authors, similar titles, that's some of Aspen's built-in algorithm type stuff. So usually when we set you up during implementation, we would just click all of this stuff. So it might already just be like on for you unless you've made a different decision. Usually also we click on the user ratings. So that is the stars. Now, if you don't want to use those reviews, or if you do want to turn those on, that additional modal that popped up when I left the star ratings, that is controlled by enable user reviews. Any of these settings that you see here, they're an immediate change. So if I were to save, refresh my screen, then I can test it out. I can decide, hey, do I want to use this? Do I want to turn it off? Like, what do I prefer? Usually in Aspen, if it takes an overnight index, it is labeled that with it's kind of like a golden warning underneath the settings. But with these settings, actually, I'll show you. There's one up here. So like this, updating this setting causes a nightly reindex. If you don't see that, generally it just means it's going to be an instant change. So like a save and a refresh. So any of these kind of enrichment settings you want to test, it's nice and easy to do so. Then down here at the bottom, this kind of chart here correlates to what's actually showing when you're clicked within the record. So here is, let's say, for example, the Novelist option, where I said you have two different options. This is where you're going to tell Aspen which option to use. So let me just show you. So right now, for example, similar series from Novelist, similar titles from Novelist, similar authors from Novelist. That is the second option I showed you on this catalog that looked like this. It's enabling those menus to be there. If you wanted to use instead, the other one I showed you that was like more graphic looking, that's the Novelist all-in-one. And you could turn them both on and you could, test and decide which one you might be more interested in. But that's how you add anything to this chart. You can also delete anything that maybe you know it just doesn't apply to you, like, oh, we don't just subscribe to Novelist and this is cluttering up my view. Just go ahead and delete it. They're not going to show unless you have that integration or you have that information in your records. But if you find it kind of confusing or you want to clean some of this up, that's totally fine as well. The other selections that you're making here, and this is really like top to bottom on your screen when you're looking at your records. So like within a record, I have copies first and then description, but I want to move description up, for example, or I want description to be collapsed and I want copies to be open. That's where you're making all of these like decisions here. So by dragging and dropping, you can reorder what you see. You can also decide if they should be open or closed by default. And then again, as soon as you save, refresh your page, you should automatically see those changes reflected. I'm trying to think. What else? Just because this has come up a few times recently, and I showed you that Jane Austen Wikipedia, and I have a few minutes. I did just want to point out as well. If you were to search your settings for Wikipedia, oops, and you spell it correctly, Wikipedia, here it is. If you want to make any updates to the Wikipedia information that you see, so when you clicked on the author, maybe it gave a different person with that same name, and you wanted to make an update to that. You have the option within Aspen in that Wikipedia area under author enrichment to come in and you can put in the author name. So, I mean, sure, hers was good, but you would just put in the author name that's showing up in your MARC records in these fields. And you can either choose to just outright hide what's showing up for that author that's coming up, or you can replace with a Wikipedia URL of your choice. So if there's like two very common names like Susie Smith, and there's multiple Wikipedia pages, and one of them was the author, but it's showing a different one, you can actually switch out that Wikipedia URL. So just a little bonus here since I showed you that enrichment and how that works, but you have full control over that and in those changes. So I think that's really nice. Okay, I think that was everything on my agenda. Do you all have questions? Morgan or Bill, do you have anything else to throw in there? Just excited to get in and leave a bunch of star ratings and get a bunch of readers' advisory recommendations when you place holds and look in your reading history. All right, friends. Well, thank you for joining us again today. The next Aspen Academy we have, let me pull that up. I'll just share my screen again really quick. We can see all the upcoming stuff. Ta-da! All right, so the next one we're going to have is more on configuring your catalog. If you want to check out that agenda, if you want to register. We also have Aspen's materials request system. To clarify, this is like Aspen's, we're mostly going to be going over Aspen's built-in materials request system, which is different than like if you're using the Koha ILS, there's an ILS system. Just want to put that out there. It is different. There's also going to be a Aspen Lita user experience session. So if you're using the app or if you're just curious about the app, that would be a really great one to attend as well. All right, I really appreciate your time. We'll see you all soon. Thanks so much. Bye.
Everyone. Bye.